What's up, everybody? Welcome once again. This is Syracuse Basketball Postgame presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. My name is Brent Axe. A comeback at the JMA Wireless Dome. Syracuse down by 17 points early in the game. Syracuse, I don't know if they knew that it was a 4 o'clock tip time at the Dome today. Maybe somebody told them it was 5 o'clock because they did not come out of the gate strong, which frankly has been an issue with this team all year. And Adrian Autry in his post-game show talked about choices and choices that this team has to make, not only about the way it's playing, but about other things in life and just choices that you make on the court, right? And Syracuse could have rolled over and died. Notre Dame was up 25-8. They could not stop Markus Burton, but Syracuse made a choice to play defense. Syracuse made a choice to make some adjustments coaching-wise. Syracuse made a choice to win. That final score, by the way, of 77-69 does not indicate how darn close this game was. Free throws matter. Uncle Brent says it all the time. And it's interesting how Kyle Cuff got the opportunity to ice this game with some free throws because Notre Dame's head coach, Micah Shrewsbury, flipped out at the end. A lot happened at the end of the game, as we'll discuss here. We will get into that. We will hear from our Syracuse Sports Insiders and what they had to say about this one. Oh, boy. The difference between the first half texts and the second half texts from our Syracuse Sports Insiders, as we will demonstrate a little bit later on here in the post-game show. Just what being a Syracuse Sports Insider is all about. I actually want to highlight one comment from somebody on that. From James L. Shout out to James. Says, Brent, thank you for allowing the Orange Insiders to vent during the game. Missing foul shots and bad defense, especially in the first half, don't make for the best versions of ourselves. But that's what we're here for. Being a Syracuse Sports Insider means you can text me directly anytime in the wave of emotions that you guys go through during games. And it certainly was not only a tale of two halves, but a tale of two teams today. And Syracuse picked the right half to play its best basketball for sure, as we'll go over here. Now, I just want to address something right at the top of the program here. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, you will look right here. Do you see right here? Now, I texted this to our insiders, but it is now going to be part of the shelf of fun behind me here on the podcast. That is the legend Rock and Ron right there. Rock and Ron will be over my shoulder while we do the show. Sent me this as a holiday gift, and I got it a little late, and when I finally got it, I mean, you just couldn't wipe the smile off my face. You still can't. So, as you can see, greetings from Rock and Ron. There's the legend doing his Dome Ranger impression, and what a pleasure to hear Rock and Ron's voicemails usually on the secret voicemail line. Which, by the way, I think I want to give away to a few more of the insiders, by the way. I mean, Rock and Ron's the king, but I think some fellow insiders have earned the secret voicemail line. And we don't have a Rock and Ron for basketball, so we need to find that. But anyway, that's the legend. What a gift from Rock and Ron. I need one of these tumblers, by the way, but I could never use this. I could never actually use it. I don't want to ruin it. So there he is, the legend. All right. Syracuse showed a lot of grit. They showed a lot of heart. They started to play defense. They dug themselves out of a hole. And for all of the hand-wringing, for all of the criticism of Adrian Autry's coaching this year, a lot of it, by the way, has been valid. A lot of it has been a source of frustration for Syracuse fans this year. Autry made the necessary adjustments. JJ Starling and Markus Burton did not play in the first Syracuse-Notre Dame game. That was a 5-point win by Notre Dame in South Bend back in early December when they kind of wedged that early ACC game into the schedule. Well, they played in this game. Burton could not be stopped in the first half. He had 22 points in the first half of this game. His career high is 31. Burton only ends up with 28. And when you say only 28, that's how darn good he was in the first half of this game. Syracuse could not stop him. But I think Adrian Autry made a good point during his post-game press conference, and I'm going to play his opening statement here shortly. But I think Autry made a great point when he said a lot of those were two-point baskets. If he was hitting from the three-point line, this would have been a different story. Look what Chucky did for Louisville on Tuesday. One of their better players, but a guy that certainly wasn't the focus of their three-point shooting. That was Rain Smith. Chucky's raining them from three. And that was a huge difference. Louisville built a lead that Syracuse could not contend with. Notre Dame builds a 25-8 lead and controlled most of the first half, but the Irish missed their last 8 shots of the first half. Syracuse started to come alive at the end of the first half, and it carried over into the second half. They played much better defense. I mean, Adrian Autry literally asked this team at halftime. Eddie Lampkin told a funny story about this afterwards. Like, who wants to guard Burton? Like, he just kind of put it on his team. Like, who's going to step up and stop this guy? But the big adjustment that they made kept Burton out of the paint in the second half. And frankly, Notre Dame kept getting in its own way a lot in the second half after just thoroughly dominating Syracuse in the first half of this game. So, look, I know it's Notre Dame, but what Syracuse has to do, guys, is they've got to win these 50-50 games. You can certainly take issue with how they had to win this game. You shouldn't have to pour everything you have into beating a team that came into this game with the same record as you. 8-9, 2-4. Syracuse is now 9-9 and 3-4, hovering on the 500 line. I understand that. That's not the level that Syracuse should be at. But you'd much rather be talking about that than a team that laid over and died after getting down 25-8. Now, where we have to even out while we're praising some coaching, this team's never ready to play. They have played 18 games, and I don't think they've been ready to play one of them. They've only led at the first time out, I believe, 3 out of those 18 games. I don't know what it is. You'd rather play your best basketball down the stretch than early, okay? But you can't keep crawling out of 25-8 holes. You can't keep setting yourself back and having to really dig down and make those adjustments. It's okay to play well in the first half. It's okay to have a plan, to be sharp, to execute. Why Syracuse, who went 8 for 24 from the three-point line in this game, which is something we got to talk about in Syracuse's kind of strange three-point philosophy. It's something I did not agree with that Autry said after the game. I agree in principle, but not really in execution. But early in this game, they're just bombing threes left and right when it was evident that they should not have been. By the way, Notre Dame, along with Syracuse, came into this game one of the worst teams in the ACC, guarding the paint. This should have been a game where Eddie Lampkin, who was huge in the second half, I believe had his 4th straight double-double. Check the math on me there, guys, but he had another double-double today. Jair Davis did not have a huge game. He got into foul trouble in the second half, which limited his minutes, but made enough plays in the paint. We got to talk about Elijah Moore, who had such a needed boost of confidence in this game. But it was JJ Starling again, guys. JJ would not be denied. Now, JJ had 21 points in this game. He went to the free throw line 6 times, which I believe the reason that Shrewsbury was just flipping out at the end of the game was twofold. One, so Notre Dame, we mentioned how close this thing was. Now that final score is kind of deceptive. So you come down the stretch of this game. Syracuse really tempted my patience and tempted your patience and everybody's patience with the free throws in this game. Syracuse ended up, what was it? 21 of 34 at the three-point line. Or pardon me, at the free throw line. That is 62%. That's unacceptable. If I have another bald spot forming from the hair I was pulling out watching this. I mean, that's just unacceptable. That's what you do down the stretch. That's what you do in this game. You get to the free throw line that much, you shoot 62%. JJ goes 1 of 2 at the free throw line. It's 70-67. Burton goes right up Broadway. Syracuse kind of let him go. He scores. He cuts it to 70-69. Kyle Cuff gets to the free throw line. Kyle Cuff was great at the free throw line, by the way. He was the one guy you could count on who was consistent at the free throw line. It's 72-69. Notre Dame's got a chance. The illegal screen is called. Now, what needs to be noted here, Mr. Shrewsbury, is your team got away with about 3 or 4 other illegal screens that were not called. What you also got away with throughout this game is JJ had 21 points. He got to the paint. He did what he had to do, and he did it in a variety of ways. JJ should have been at the free throw line a heck of a lot more than he was, because Notre Dame, Mike Waters and I are looking at each other like, JJ just literally got slapped in the arm. No call. No, like, this officiating crew didn't have their best day. Let's just put it to you that way. So between the illegal screen at the end, and apparently Shrewsbury's got a little history with Brian O'Connell, one of the officials out there. But my man, if you have not seen the video of this, I'm sure it's out there in Twitter land. Shrewsbury, you would have thought that Brian O'Connell shot his dog. He was livid. It took the entire Notre Dame coaching staff to hold him back. And not in a hold me back kind of way. Like, they literally had to hold him back. And there was violence on the face of, I don't know what he would have done had he got to the official or what he was doing, but whoa, baby, he was upset. So that puts Kyle Cuff at the free throw line. So the irony here, Syracuse was terrible at the free throw line, could have cost themselves this game at the free throw line. Kyle Cuff gets to go to the free throw line and ice it at the end. So Kyle Cuff had 13 points. A lot of that came at the free throw line for him. He was, Kyle Cuff was 10 of 10 at the free throw line. So, chef's kiss on that. Iced it at the end. Cuff was huge in this game. And look, JJ at 21. Lampkin had a double-double. Cuff was huge. Look at my man Maestro. 3 points, 2 rebounds. You're like, oh, he didn't play that well. No. Peter did a lot of the hustle things, a lot of the gritty things, a lot of setting the tone, hustle on defense that Syracuse needed to flip a switch and do. The Maestro was huge in doing that. He played 21 minutes. Jaquan Carlos doesn't look like he had a huge box score, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists in this game in 21 minutes. Carlos made some key passes. And I'll tell you what, Syracuse got out-rebounded 43-34 in this game, but they own, you know what else matters? Not only free throws, rebounds. Syracuse made every key rebound. Now, frankly, some of them were on their own misses on the offensive end. And again, Syracuse really flirted with losing this game at the end, but Notre Dame did all they could, including getting a double technical from their head coach in crunch time at the end of this game to help Syracuse ice it. So Syracuse made the rebounds they had to make. They did make the free throws, I guess, even though JJ missed that one at the end that they had to make. JJ ended up 4 of 6 at the free throw line. Points in the paint at one time was a huge gap in favor of the Irish. That ends up at 32-28. Notre Dame at times, guys, was shooting 66% in this game. They end up at 42%. Syracuse, 41%. Now, again, we got to talk about the three-point shooting a little bit here, because what Autry said after the game, I think, is a general philosophy. I think is something that coaches think they have to say, that you got to shoot threes in college basketball these days, right? Well, you do. And Syracuse has a weakness there at the three-point line. But do you really have to shoot it 24 times in a game when you have a distinct advantage in the paint? When you can get the ball inside? When what we saw in the second half should have happened way earlier in this game. So I will give credit to Autry for making the adjustments in the second half to neutralize Burton, and he coached his ass off in the second half. I will give him that. But why he insists on this team just going out there early in the game and bombing up threes when they clearly, a lot of those shots were at the end of the shot clock. They were not clean. They were not organized. They were not good looks. That's when you got to abandon that plan. And the fact that Syracuse shot 24 threes in this game. Now, Notre Dame was just 5 of 14 at the three-point line. You will take that. Notre Dame was 16 of 18 at the free throw line, though. Again, the fact that Syracuse got away with going 21 of 34 at the free throw line really pushed the free throws matter mantra here. But as we mentioned, the coach helped them a little bit at the end. So I think Syracuse has to, what I'm trying to say is Autry doesn't, I don't know why he feels like he has to say, oh, you got to make threes in college basketball. Well, you didn't in this game. Notre Dame wasn't exactly killing it from the three-point line, and you had the advantage without Donnie Freeman, by the way, in the paint. Now, again, Notre Dame won the paint points, but that was more game plan than it was Notre Dame's just got this huge advantage in the paint. So you got to take note of that and kind of keep an eye on strategy, things like that. But what won Syracuse this game were adjustments, and look, leadership. JJ takes over. This team easily could have rolled over and died. I'll tell you who else deserves credit here, and I should not be 15 minutes into this show and not hat tip the crowd. Now, was there 20,000 people in that building today? What was the listed attendance here? Hold on one sec, guys. I got it right here. 20,842. No, there were not 20,000 people in that building. But the 13 or so that were there were loud. They were into it. And in the first half, again, tale of two halves, the boos were raining down. And by the way, they should have been, because that was a disorganized team that, again, you're welcome to play the first half too. That counts. They put points on the scoreboard and everything, guys. The boos were deserved because of the strategy, how they were playing. And look, JJ Starling said afterwards, like, if you, and I don't want to misquote him here, it'll be in my overheard column tomorrow. So check that out, please, syracuse.com. But JJ basically said, if you boo, don't come to the next game. JJ said, I've been saying this a lot all year. We're playing for us, right? You got to tune out that noise. The boos were deserved because of the strategy that was being put out there. And then boos are contagious. You know, people are just like, yeah, boo, right? You're free to play the first half, guys, and that will cut back on some of that. But they did overturn it in the second half. This is what this team is. You look at the record, you look at the matchups, you look at the scenario before the game, and you can almost tell how the game's going to go based on that. In these 50-50 games, Syracuse can win. But like going into the Louisville game on Tuesday night, there were just a few things that stood out about that team where you're like, man, they're really going to have to go to an extreme to beat this team, right? The ACC is so down, though, short of a few teams at the top, that there's a lot of 50-50 games on the schedule, right? I don't know if that's more mediocrity than anything, but that's the story of this team. You win the 50-50 games. Can you punch up on somebody? Can you beat a big boy? Right? It's going to be the story of this team going forward. Elijah Moore got back into it, and he really needed to. I think he had missed, let me put it to you this way. I don't know the exact streak of missed shots. He hit a three-pointer in the first time in this game since Maryland on December 21st. Now, Elijah Moore being in the starting lineup, and he ended up playing 17 minutes in this game. He went 1 of 6 from the three-point line, and there were a couple of near misses. Elijah Moore did not take, he took one bad shot. He took one bad three in this game. That's the thing, guys. He's getting the looks. I'm not a coach, nor do I pretend to, but I don't know if he's just not following through sharply or what's, but for lack of a better term, Elijah Moore's shots are weak. They rim out a lot in a certain way, which shows me, I don't know if he's not getting enough lift. I don't know if he's adjusting his shot going from high school to college. I mean, this is a guy that's got a tattoo. He's got a bullseye tattooed on his elbow, and he kind of does this when he makes shots. For a guy that's supposed to be that much of a sharpshooter, the shot just, there's something just off about it. To me, I'm watching him more and more, and I'm thinking, this is mechanical. Something is not translating to the game mechanically that needs to. So that's my observation of it, but he just needed to feel like he's a part of this team, and he played 17 minutes. Because starting Elijah Moore is not a big deal. If you start Elijah Moore and he goes over 2 from the three-point line and you yank him, now it's Kyle Cuff and it's Jaquan Carlos, and you go from there. But Moore hit a 3. He got inside. He scored 8 points. He lifted the building with a couple of his scores. He had to feel like this is flowing for him, and I get why Red has to continue to play him. You're in the portal era, okay? Some people may not like this, but this is the era we're in. You know who said this? And I know football and basketball are different. Fran Brown flat out said, there are guys that play because we're in the portal era, and I got to get them on the field, right? It's the same thing in basketball. Does Elijah Moore deserve to start on this team? Well, based on his production, no. No, he doesn't. But he brings a skill that no one else really can live up to. He's their best three-point shooter in theory because, again, Chris Bell, nowhere to be seen in this game, right? I can't call Chris Bell this team's best three-point shooter anymore because time after time, he disproves that. Chris Bell had 3 points in this game. He played 9 minutes, right? So it's between Bell and Moore, but they're both inconsistent in that department. But Moore just had to feel like he was part of the team, get a little acknowledgement from and the crowd was so happy when he hit that shot. You guys know, you're smart fans, you follow this team. He needed that. So that's one of those little things that hopefully adds up for Syracuse. Not the best game for Lucas Taylor, just 3 points, played 18 minutes, did get in and defend on Burton a little bit in the second half. So Syracuse wins. That's the important thing. They're 9-9, right? But, man, if this team has to extract that much energy to beat a 50-50 team, a team... Now, Notre Dame, their record was a little deceptive, okay? They had lost 4 of their last 5. They beat the crap out of Boston College earlier this week, but in the 4 losses before that, a lot of close losses in there to good teams, by the way. So that record was a little deceptive. But, man, if you've got to put everything you have into beating Notre Dame, that just shows you where you're at as a team, right? There's a long way to go here. So I think the fans were happy and deserved a game like that. I think there's some great photos Jair Davis put up on his social media showing how happy the team was. This was joy. It wasn't relief. This was joy. This was work paying off. I talked to JJ Starling afterwards. He was very upset after that loss to Louisville. He was downright despondent and mentioned how it was going to motivate him going into this game. He almost got punked again by Burton. Frankly, JJ didn't play great defense on Burton for most of the game. But JJ took over this game in the manner in which he needs to and would not be punked again, right? So he lived up to that, what he needed to do to respond from that loss to Louisville on Tuesday. But what we have not seen from this team is any consistency. And I'm just going to say it again, guys. The first half counts. They put points on the board in the first half and the second half. I didn't know if you know that. You can't keep coming out of the gate this slow. It's great what they did in the second half. All credit to them. But the first half counts too, just so you guys know. All right, I want to hear from our Syracuse Sports Insiders, but first let's hear from Adrian Autry. This was his opening statement after this one.
Just really thanking the community and the fans that came out today. They showed up, they were loud, they made a difference, and I can't thank them enough. Our guys can't thank them enough, and they just appreciate all the guys that just came out this afternoon, and stayed with us. And cheer us back, and we need that. That's what makes this play special, all right? And the consistency and the commitment to no matter what, they came and showed out, and I just appreciate that so much. In the game, I just thought, we showed a lot of heart. I thought we showed a lot of resilience. I thought our defense was the key, especially in the second half. We gave up 42 in the first, and 23 in the second. We just grinded, we fought. To be able to, pull out a win like that after missing 13 free throws, I just credit to all those guys. Everybody that stepped on the floor gave us something. Eddie, he's been huge for us, 4th double-double. I thought JJ, made some big shots when we needed him to make some big shots. That's what he needs to do. That's what he has to do. And I thought he stepped up big. I was happy for Elijah. He stayed with it. I thought he had a big impact on this game. Just being able to stay with it. Kyle Cuff, he always brings something. He comes in, he fights, he battles. I can go all down. I can go down the line of all these guys that stepped on the court. But I'm just so proud of the way they defended, the way they were tough, the way they were resilient. Through everything that's going on right now, you couldn't tell whatever our record was. These guys came out here, they played hard, they played tough, and that's how it has to be going forward.
There you go. That's Adrian Autry's opening statement from tonight. Let's hear what our Syracuse Sports Insiders had to say about this game. Now, boy, was there a difference between the first and the second half. I'll say that. So I'm going to give you a few texts that I got in the first half, and then a great prediction that was made at halftime, and then a little bit of what you guys said in the second half. So when things weren't going so well, we had Kay who said, hard to imagine starting off a game much worse, a loss in the first few minutes. I'll say it again. I've never seen a worse Syracuse team. From Michael, who says, I think the AD had too much class to fire Autry midseason. But by this time next year, we may be talking about head coach Jerry McNamara. Gene says, not even angry anymore, just plain sad. How can they be this bad? But then at halftime, David says, I'm calling it right now. The Orange will come back and win this game in the second half, playing much better defense and shutting down Notre Dame's three-point shooting. David in South Florida nailed it. Steve B loved that because he said, I love David in South Florida. I felt the same way, and I put my money where my mouth was. Hope he made some money off the prediction as well. Insiders helping insiders. You got to love it. So now we go to the second half, and I want to show James's text again, who says, thank you for allowing our insiders to vent during the game. Missing foul shots and bad defense, especially in the first half, does not make for the best versions of ourselves. That's one of the best texts we've ever gotten. But that's what I'm here for, guys. That's what I'm here for. All right, second half text. Al says, even though we won, Taylor should have been in the game instead of Carlos for defense on Notre Dame's last possessions. The backcourt of JJ and Carlos is a proven loser. We won because of energy. Lampkin, Cuff, and JJ. Eddie P says, gutty second half comeback for the win. This team is so hard to figure out at times, like in this game's second half. You think maybe they've got some things figured out, but then in the next game, they play like they've never played before, like the first half of this game. From Frankie, who says, fantastic comeback win for Syracuse. I didn't think they had it in them. The defense was much better in the second half. Lampkin and JJ were terrific. They even overcame lousy free throws. And as Frank notes here, becoming obvious that they need to keep winning those 50-50 games and hope to steal a big boy game. That's this team. That is this team in a nutshell. From Jim B, not that Jim B, who says if this team could take the second half energy and effort and bring that all game, every game, win or lose, the fans will support that product. Also, for the love of God, free throws matter. Rich P is in the same position. Autry must go. We're celebrating wins against Notre Dame and Boston College like their wins against Duke and North Carolina. Now, again, Notre Dame, I think that record was a little deceptive. That's a good team, but their record is what it is. Coming in, BC, yeah, like that's, you got to check that box, which they did, right? But that's where Syracuse is at. Frankie made that point. 50-50 games, you got to take them. Who can you punch up on? Can Syracuse find, I'm not even saying you got to play 40 minutes like that, but if you play, somebody had a great text that said, I can support if they play this way. That's half the battle. I said it earlier. The boos were deserved in the first half because they just go out there and there's no organization. It's like, did you guys practice this week? And then they find something. They make the adjustment, but it takes too long. The first half counts too, and that's got to be a priority for this team going forward because they've proven there's been a few close games. They were in a ton of close games early. They've banked that. They lost a bunch of them, frankly, but they kind of know what it takes now, how to succeed or at least be in the game in the second half when things are tight. This team doesn't fold when things are tight. They just don't always execute, right? That's important. So whether it's Notre Dame or it's Duke or that's what people are waiting for. They're waiting for the punch-up game. They're waiting for Syracuse to put this together against a good team. You got Duke at home. You got North Carolina at home, and there's some punch-up opportunities upcoming for Syracuse, right? So I think that's what people are looking for. Some people, like Rich, not convinced, still hold the same position, but it's nice to be talking about a win. It's nice to be in a happy locker room, right? Long way to go, a lot of basketball to be played, but they showed something. That is, a team that's got a lot of chemistry issues, they lay over and die. They don't win that game. That is not a sense I've gotten from this team. There's a great photo I mentioned from Jair Davis on social media. You can check it out in his social media feed. This team does like each other. This team does not have chemistry issues, which I sensed in last year's team won 20 games, right? This team, I think, genuinely does get along. I mean, everybody's got issues and drama and injuries and things happen, but there is a lack of drama in that locker room. And that's a testament to JJ. That's a testament to Kyle Cuff and some of the veteran leaders on this team. And it's not easy to build chemistry in the portal era, but a bigger part of me right now is anything can happen in the next game, right? Consistency is not this team's friend. Want to mention this before we go. How long can a guy be day-to-day? So Donnie Freeman missed the fourth straight game. You're not day-to-day if you miss 4 games. Okay? Day-to-day, and aren't we all? I get that joke too, right? I don't want to speculate. I am not Dr. Axe. Shout out to my guy Joe, who calls me Dr. Axe on the text line. I don't even have an honorary doctorate yet. But I do know this. 4 games is not day-to-day. I asked Autry after the game if Donnie's status was still day-to-day, or is this looking more long-term? Autry would not commit to when he would return or what his status is, but he did relate it to JJ. He said it's kind of like JJ, where we're just kind of waiting to see when he could come back. Well, JJ had a broken hand and was out for a month. Once we learned what JJ's injury was, that equals a timeline. Now, from what I understand, for those of you that are frustrated why they don't get more specific with these things, from what I understand, you need the athlete's permission to basically put a timeline on an injury. That's why coaches are so vague with these things. Okay? Once we found out JJ had a broken hand, okay, well, what's a typical recovery from a broken hand? And JJ was like right on the line. As soon as he could come back, he did. And he's been great ever since, short of that bad performance where he got punked, in his words, against Louisville. Donnie Freeman's in a boot. It's described as a lower leg injury. It's a right foot issue. So what Donnie Freeman has to figure out here is this, and what this team has to figure out, because you're not day-to-day anymore. Day-to-day is like, yeah, man, I'm so close. It's just the swelling's got to go down, or like day-to-day is like, you can't be day-to-day for 4 games. So is this injury, and I'm asking rhetorically here, is this injury a little more serious, or maybe surgery is a consideration, shutting it down is a consideration? Freeman is an NBA prospect. Is Freeman, and I'm asking this rhetorically, thinking about bigger things, thinking long-term? Is he being advised not to come back? Or is it, as Autry put it, a JJ thing where like, man, we're so close and we'll get him back at some point here. I don't have an exact timeline on you. As we were going through the JJ thing and what his progress was, is he practicing? Okay, and then one day he's out there and he's got the wrap on his hand. You're like, you could kind of mark the progress. Donnie Freeman's not even practicing, and he's not in warm-ups. That's not day-to-day. Okay, day-to-day, you're in warm-ups. Day-to-day, you're not in a boot. So trying to find the balance here. I want to respect everybody's privacy and all that fun stuff, but we're not talking about anything serious here. We're not talking about a Chance Westry situation. Chance Westry, who's just the mystery man, and they won't say anything about his status, which I respect, by the way. If that's something private and you don't want to talk about it, more power to you. You don't have to. But we know what's wrong with Donnie Freeman, right? I see it. He's got a boot on his foot. So can we stop with this day-to-day stuff and just tell us what the deal is? And, well, a coach doesn't want to reveal and they want opponents to game plan for him. We're beyond that. We're beyond that, okay? I don't think that Coach Shrewsbury at Notre Dame was, up all night worrying about whether or not Donnie Freeman's going to play or not. Like, they factor in Donnie Freeman or not. Well, it's a strategy thing. Come on, guys. He can't be day-to-day for 4 games. Something to keep an eye on, though. What's the deal with this? Are we leaning towards a more serious thing, or is it just we're just waiting it out, right? The more vague you are about these things, the more it lends itself to speculation. This is why transparency is a good thing. This is why you go. I'm not even sure. Did they even go to Donnie and ask, hey, can we talk about this injury? Let people know what's going on here. The more transparent you are about these things, the better. Okay, don't be a football coach. We're talking about it, or even worse, when it's the Stanley Cup playoffs and you either have an upper or lower body injury. Like, just come on. We're beyond that. It's 4 games now. This is not day-to-day. Something's up. So we'll figure that out. I don't know. Again, I don't want to speculate. He could be out there against Clemson for all I know on Wednesday. But if you're not practicing and you're not in warm-ups, you got a boot on your foot, that's not day-to-day. That's all I'm saying. So we'll keep our eyes on that one. That is where we will end tonight's show. I do want to say this briefly, though. Go Bills. Of course, Kansas City won. Now, I haven't watched the game. I was at the Syracuse Notre Dame game, but I've seen enough clips. It's hard enough to beat Kansas City. You can't beat Kansas City and the refs, apparently. Some of the calls that I've seen highlights on, and credit to Troy Aikman for shredding the officials on that broadcast. And he's the only one that'll do it, by the way. Kansas City's good enough to win without all the help from the officials. So as somebody who's a Buffalo Bills fan who is not looking past the Baltimore Ravens, okay, that is going to be as evenly matched and as tough of a game as I've seen the Bills have to play, right? Baltimore could easily beat the Bills tomorrow. Not so easy, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm not looking ahead to the AFC Championship game. But let's be honest here. If it's Buffalo or it's Baltimore, whoever's going to get to the Super Bowl has to go through Kansas City to do it. It's hard enough to beat Patrick Mahomes. It's even harder to beat 2 teams. The NFL's got to knock this off. And good for Troy Aikman for calling him out on it, because the bias they show towards Kansas City and Mahomes is ridiculous at this point. I just wanted to say that. I know this is a Syracuse sports show, but man, why does that dude get all the calls? It's ridiculous. Okay, that's where I'll end tonight. Go Bills. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We'll be back Wednesday night after Syracuse takes on Clemson for another edition of Syracuse Basketball Postgame. We'll talk to you then live. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube so you get the postgame show and Syracuse Sports sent to you on demand when you can listen and watch whenever you want. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Okay, we'll talk to you again next time on Syracuse Basketball Postgame, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics.